Well, good morning, everybody. I just want to start off first with an apology. I know that a couple of my videos and reports have been coming out a little later than normal. I've been kind of frantically rebuilding some of the databases that power some of the forecast products I have, and it's just taking a little bit extra time at the beginning of this new year. And by the way, just want to shout out to my dad. I'm in Kansas City today at FarmCon, and he's watching my kids for me at home while my wife came with me, and he had to restart two of my main servers. So I really appreciate him doing that so that we can get these forecast products up and going. Now, while I've been telling you all that, we've been watching a satellite animation here of the system that's rolling through the midsection of the United States, and just as the sun was rising this morning here in the Midwest. But I want to pause it here at the very beginning of the animation just to show the extent last night of the storms that kind of ripped through parts of the south and then right in through here in parts of central Illinois. This was a tough forecast in this area, but we did see there was actually 7 reports of tornadoes that went across Illinois last night in and around like the Decatur area. But the upper level low has kind of become a bit disconnected from the main warm conveyor, which is out over parts of New England today. And as the sun rises, we're going to still watch that upper level low sit and spin here while the main front cuts through parts of the mid-Atlantic, the Carolinas. We do have a tornado watch that extends down here into parts of Florida and Georgia. So that's going to be our main severe weather area tonight. I know a lot of attention is going to go to the west, where we're watching just a powerful storm system just off the coast. Just watch this infrared satellite loop over the last 12 hours or so just spin up this big west coast cyclone here. And as it comes on shore, it's going to be a multi-hazard event, including some very strong winds. So just to show you the winds currently sitting offshore, just want you to understand that this is on its way to the west coast. So thinking about that, let's prep what's already happened with what we expect to see here. So this is a map I make every day. Uses the AHPS data from NOAA looking at recent precipitation. This is a 2-week map. And it's percent of normal. Now, I'd make my color bars only go up to about 300, 325%. That's a lot above normal. But I've labeled a few areas just lately that have been significantly more than that. And also just want to highlight how dry parts of the southern plains have been. We're going to talk more about what's happening down here in just a few seconds. In the last 3 days, though, with the storm system that rolled through and produced the snow here and the severe weather to the south, we actually see why there's so much flooding going on along the Mississippi River Basin, Tennessee Valley, Ohio Valley, down to the southeast, where some of these storms put down 6 to 10 inches of rain overall. Now, with the system that's coming into the west, not only is it going to be a major precipitation producer, but we're going to watch for wind gusts here over the next few days that could be as high as 50 to 60 miles an hour. Some places much higher, all dependent on elevation and the terrain here. And as this comes through, this is just kind of the bigger picture of what we're expecting. Total accumulated precipitation from this event and the ones that follow this weekend, and those that are coming early next week for the west, as we just continue to watch the very strong zonal flow in the jet stream coming across the Pacific. Certainly going to be producing a lot of precipitation here. And I've kind of resisted using the term Pineapple Express a lot with this, but now it is very much in use because this main plume of moisture is coming from Hawaii. So there are places here that could receive upwards of 6 to 18 inches of liquid equivalent out of this, and at high elevations we're talking about quite a bit of snow. Some places well in excess of 4 feet in parts of California. The newest forecast also has increased the snowfall amounts in the Cascades as well. But you notice none of this is getting over the mountains. We need to talk about that because the system that just came through that produced all of this extremely heavy snow through parts of Colorado, Nebraska, really hitting right here on the border between South Dakota getting into Minnesota. This system here, plus the ice to the south of it, is kind of the last of its kind here while we're dealing with this zonal jet that's going on. So what are we still expecting to get out of it? Well, remember the upper level low is still sitting and spinning here. So there's still the chance from parts of Minnesota, the northern Wisconsin, and the UP, then getting into Ontario and Quebec, where we could see a swath of 6 to 10 inches of snow still yet to come out of this. But I mentioned that it's kind of the last of its kind because as you watch today's European model simulation, that storm system moves off to New England, and yeah, we'll spread some heavy rain there and some ice into parts of Ontario and Quebec. But as the next big systems come slamming into the west, what's happening here is that these waves are not ejecting into the central United States. They're much weaker. So we got a system coming out here on Saturday that's going to move through the midsection of the country, drag a cold front here, and then that presses to the northeast. See that? But the next ones that come clobbering into the west coast are doing the same thing. They're not producing troughs or short waves that eject over the mountains and become big, central United States storm systems. And even the snow we're expecting through the Canadian Prairie isn't really well resolved. But I think actually most of the Canadian Prairie and the Northern Plains are going to stay quite dry. But midweek next week, next Wednesday, Thursday, we are seeing a weaker system here, but nothing like the ones we have been seeing coming out of this pattern. And the reason why is, I'll just show you in the jet stream level winds. So if you watch, this is the deep trough associated with the current big low that's moving through the middle part of the country. All right. After that, we see just an onslaught of flow coming into the west. But the flow is just flat. There's no deep troughs. And even though the jet stream's moving here, this is the system that comes through late this weekend, it doesn't have the amplitude to it to drive a big cyclone. So the flow is just hammering the west. This is next Monday, going into next Tuesday, and we get ridging in the midsection of the country. Now, this could be one to watch. It's a full week away from right now, and it could come out as a shortwave. See it right there next, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But the details on this are pretty limited, and it's certainly not to the magnitude of the current wave we're watching. So while there's this strong zonal jet stream flow across the Pacific, we have mild air across much of North America and a lack of upper level wind support to develop big cyclones here. All the action is primarily going to be to the west. Now, just want to show you that this strong jet stream level flow seems to be lasting into week 2. I'm just showing you here the CPC, the ECMWF, and the GFS forecast for week 2. Put those in the report today. And while this flow is going on, we're going to continue to see more mild conditions across, the United States and Canadian Prairie, across Europe, and across much of Asia. The coldest places are here in this part of Russia and Siberia when you compare it to normal. So when does this break? Well, we're getting some signals of that right now. The MJO is forecast to come into phase 8 and possibly do a reset in the Indian Ocean. That was something we talked about as possibly being a disruptor. This is a signal of the La Nina losing its grip, and that's something that we're really going to have to watch for late this month. Really, the next 10 days plus are going to be dominated by the zonal Pacific jet stream flow. And just want to give you the latest updated maps on South America. There's really no change at all to this narrative, what we carried this week. So just want to provide the information, continuing to show dry conditions returning to Argentina and parts of southern Brazil, where very warm conditions are going to be here for midsummer. By the way, today being January 4th, this is where the Earth in its orbit is in its perihelion, which means we are the closest to the sun we are in our orbit, about 5 million kilometers closer now than we are on July the 4th. But it is winter in the northern hemisphere due to the tilt. So just a little bit of interesting scientific info about our elliptical orbit around the sun. So I'll leave you off there. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk again tomorrow morning. Thanks.